Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mariam Githat. I'm Director of Programs at Amideast. It's truly an honor to co-host today's event alongside my colleague, Dr. Elena Corbett, our Director of Amideast Education Abroad Programs. I want to start by extending a warm welcome to our guests, both present here and joining us virtually. We are grateful for the time you've dedicated to this important conversation. April marks National Arab American Heritage Month and Community College Month, making this event particularly significant for us here at Amideast. We are happy to provide a space where we could come together to spotlight the invaluable work carried out by U.S. community colleges and to explore opportunities for collaborations with the MENA region. To ensure that the voice of our colleagues from the MENA are represented, we've initiated the MENA Community College Talks, a series of interviews featuring experts from Tunisia, Kuwait, and Jordan. We'll be sharing the links to these discussions in the Zoom chat for your reference. Before starting our panel discussion, I'd like to address some logistical details. We'll start with the panel, followed by a Q&A conversation. To facilitate the engagement, we'll alternate between the room and the Zoom attendees. If you're joining us remotely, please feel free to either raise your hand or put your question in the chat. Our panelists today come from diverse backgrounds. They each bring a wealth of expertise, and we're very glad and honored to have them. I'm excited to learn from you all today, and I'm going to pass the word to Dr. Corbett to present them to you. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much. Welcome to everyone here in the room and joining us online. We are so thrilled to have all of our panelists joining us today. And there is so much wealth of experience and knowledge and leadership and future leadership here in this panel today that I'm not going to be able to touch on all of the wonderful aspects of their biographies that they shared with us, but I'm going to do my best. For the full version, we've got a few over there on the table that you can pick up and read more. Let me start by introducing Lisa Fernand. Sitting there at the end of the table. Lisa is currently working at the U.S. Department of State as a Foreign Service Officer. She's originally from Belarus and is an absolute polyglot. We'd be here all day listing all of your many impeccable language skills. She holds an MBA from John Carroll University with a concentration in international business and a graduate certificate in international education leadership. Lisa is the former director of the U.S. Department of State's Community College Initiative Program, or CCI. She is the former associate director for the Office of International Education and Sponsored Programs and the senior international officer at Northern Virginia Community College, or NOVA. And this is how she first became part of the Amideast family many years ago. Next, I would like to introduce Dr. Cynthia Robinson, who is joining us online. Hello, Dr. Cynthia. Welcome. She joins us from Florida State College at Jacksonville, and she's a Jacksonville native. And notes specifically that she is excited to utilize her experience and her connections to develop a stronger global community, but from that context of her hometown of Jacksonville. Dr. Robinson has more than 28 years in education with a specific background in developing global relations at the foreign and domestic levels. She has a Bachelor of Science in elementary education, going on to earn a master's degree in educational leadership and eventually a PhD in educational leadership. Dr. Robinson currently serves as the Associate Director of the Center for International Education at Florida State College at Jacksonville, where she uses her foundation of international travel to develop current international programs, expand partnerships with new regions, and revive the study abroad program at FSCJ. Next, I would like to introduce Cinder Cooper-Barnes, who has over 20 years of higher education teaching experience. She is presently a full-time faculty member in the English department at Montgomery College and serves as the director of the Global Humanities Initiative. She currently co-leads overseas faculty development seminars to Senegal with the Council of American Overseas Research Centers and the West African Research Center. Cinder is an American Council of Learned Societies Community College Fellow, serves as Vice Chair of the Arts and Humanities Council of Montgomery County, and Treasurer of the West African Research Association. She is currently working on her doctorate in Education Policy, Organization, and Leadership with a focus on global studies at the University of Illinois. And sitting here to my right is Zaynab Mirza. Zaynab is a sophomore at Northern Virginia Community College, where she is majoring in liberal arts with a specialization in international relations. She's taking time out of finals to join us today. Thank you so much. To further pursue her passions, she took part in Amideast's own CASE, Community Action and Social Entrepreneurship program in Tunisia, and was recently selected as a CLS, Critical Language Scholarship finalist for India this summer. She plays an active role in the Student Government Association on her campus and was recently promoted to president in the spring semester. In the future, she hopes to transfer to a four-year university to continue her education in foreign policy.
Thank you so much, Elena. Without further ado, we're going to start with Lisa. Lisa is going to talk to us today about issues of access for community college students to study abroad opportunities.
Thank you, and thank you very much for having me. I must say in advance that while I'm no longer, I think I have a very loud voice, so if you need the microphone, please raise your hand. While I'm no longer actively working in a community college, I did spend almost 15 years working in community colleges, and they are very near and dear to my heart as a very unique aspect of American education system, which I feel is oftentimes misunderstood abroad. We're oftentimes compared to technical colleges or training colleges, but it's not quite right? Community colleges, as our students will tell us, are quite unique. And my goal as an administrator in community colleges has always been to promote that unique aspect of of a community college. However, there are challenges in community colleges when it comes to international education, right? International education, unfortunately, and again, I'm speaking in hyperbole here, right? This is just what I've seen in my near 2 decades. They really are seen as a luxury for international education. So while many universities you see have expectations for students to study abroad, it is part of their requirement to graduate, to go abroad and experience abroad. But in a community college, unfortunately, it's still seen as a luxury. So my time at Nova, the 10 years that I spent at Nova, was really to find ways to get that access for our students, even though it's not necessarily part of their directed path. So that included very wide promotion. That included bombarding your emails with the myriad opportunities that are available, including the Amideast opportunities, which are so tremendous because there are so many opportunities out there. But when you're looking at a community college student versus a university student, they just don't always have the same amount of time. They're taking care of family members, they're taking care of themselves, they've got multi-generational households, they're working full-time, they're not going on a typical schedule. So for them, you really have to find a different kind of approach, right? How can you engage with them, but also make you all understand that yes, you have every right to this opportunity, just like your university counterparts. And oftentimes that's what I found was the biggest challenge, because on paper, I look at these students and I'm like, oh my gosh, like, why aren't you going everywhere? You're amazing. But I think if we all think back of being, in our late teens, early 20s, we don't always know how amazing we are or the capacity that we have. And I think that as an educator, it's our job, it's our role to showcase what it is that the student is capable of. And oftentimes that includes not only promoting these opportunities, but also helping. So let's say there's an essay that's due, right? Kind of just taking a look and saying, so you're writing this essay in this way, but have you thought about it? Like, who is giving you this scholarship, right? That's wonderful that this is the stuff that you want to do, but remember who is the audience here. So kind of helping them get a different perspective, which helps them not only in in reviewing or looking at their own abilities, but also kind of helping them in thinking about future opportunities as well. So I will say that there's been a tremendous progress. And again, I'm speaking as a former community college person, not under my current role, but there has been tremendous progress in highlighting the importance of community colleges on the federal level. There's scholarships available, including like Gilman and CLS Spark and Boren Scholarship, Boren Awards. So much focus on the promotion of community colleges, especially as it comes to like apprenticeships and training and direct access to the workforce, right? Really highlighting the importance, because not everybody is slotted to go to a university, right? But I feel like community colleges are still trying to catch up to that. Others are promoting it, but at community colleges, we still have a little ways to go. So it's really important to to rely on the resources that already exist within a community college, because that's the biggest challenge, right? We don't have the staff. We don't have the staff to to give a study abroad advisor for every student who wants to talk, right? So oftentimes you are an office of one, like I was, and you are managing about 4 different types of things, and international is one of those things, or study abroad is one of those things. So you just have to be creative. So I'll give an example. I noticed that emails where like it was like I might as well have been just dropping a drop of water in a big pond. I mean, I was not reaching anybody, right? And it was like, or I got an email that said, leave me alone. So I started sending text messages, right? And that got, I mean, then my phone was, overwhelmed, but that got the response. Okay, so now students, you're getting direct access to those students. Okay, well, what if I put a link with an informational session? Perfect. Now they're joining my, my semester sessions much more frequently. So that really worked for what I was doing. And again, relying on the expertise of our alumni, because students want to hear from students. They don't want to hear from me. What do I know, right? What it's going to be like to actually leave your family behind and leave your situation, right? So again, unlike a university student, community college administrators have to think that our students can't go for a semester. And if they can, it's the very few. How can we create programs that actually provide those students with those opportunities? It's really wonderful. We could say, look, we'll give you a program. You can even apply for a scholarship. That's really great, but I can't leave my job that supports my entire family, right? So it's wonderful, even if it's all paid for, but how am I actually going to make this work? So again, finding those creative approaches to making it work for your students. What we were also able to do was kind of a hybrid virtual and in-person programs. That is fantastic. There was a program that we did in Scotland that we got through an Ideas grant, which was a capacity building grant, and we had to play around with it, right? We offered 8 weeks and nobody applied. Like, how can we leave for 8 weeks, right? But then we did a 4-week hybrid, 4-week back here, and then 4 weeks in person, and that was the golden ticket, and that was a fantastic program, still ongoing. So really kind of working to see what works well for your students. I know I'm talking fast and a lot, so just please stop me if I need to. At the end of the day, it is a very challenging climate for community colleges. We are constantly in competition for funding. And I understand it. I fully understand it. Domestic or community colleges have unique challenges that are typically focused on domestic need, right? Because let's say approximately, again, I'm just going by my own experience, about 70% of the budget comes from tuition, right? So you've got to be focused on that. So while maybe there's a greater focus on international students or bringing in international students because there's a tuition component, right? When you think about things like study abroad, where's the benefit of that, right? And that's where you have to really find those intangible benefits that could help find that support on an administrative level so that our students have an equitable access to those opportunities that their university counterparts have. And that goes beyond just the student, right? That goes into promoting programs for faculty and staff as well, because at the end of the day, not all of the students will ever be able to go abroad, right? You've got 2/3 of the national population don't have a passport and maybe won't. So, so how can you create domestic study abroad opportunities by having faculty, staff, students come back and have an expectation to kind of pay back to the student body what they've learned abroad, because that's how you also help diversify your classroom, diversify the material, and expand the knowledge that those students that won't be able to go abroad will have. So again, what can be done? I certainly don't have a solution, because that's something I've been trying to figure out for 15 years and will continue doing so. But promoting community colleges at every possible step of the way, it's hard to do when you know, I love international education. I love community colleges. So for me, it's a no-brainer. But for others, you're like, wait, what's a community college? Why would they need international? Like, how is this going to benefit? So it's really kind of reaching beyond what the logical benefit is, and just trying to see who is my audience, and here is how that audience will, you know, understand a little bit more about what that is. Is that me? No, that's not me. Okay. So, and again, you know, I think what we found a tremendous success with was joining consortia of community colleges, or Nova led a consortium of community colleges that are internationally minded, because then you can develop programs together, right? You can build programs together that maybe as an individual community college you're not able to do, right? Or you could say, oh wait, this college is really on the ball and they've got this program, and they've got this program, so maybe my students can join, and then just working to see how we can again, just benefit the students. At the end of the day, it's all about the students. But we've got some challenges ahead of us. So I call that was 10 minutes. That was very fast. That was very fast.
That was 10 minutes, but a very interesting 10 minutes.
Sorry.
Thank you so much for laying the ground for, you know, our entire conversation. You've asked, what can we do? Dr. Robinson is here with us today. She's gonna give us her insights about what can be done from the institutional perspective. Dr. Robinson, as we said, is the Associate Director for the Center for International Education at Florida State College at Jacksonville. And she's gonna tell us about her experience and what they've been doing at the center to find these solutions and creative approaches.
Hello, everybody. It's nice to see you. It's nice to be involved, and I do appreciate the invitation to serve on the panel. And I hope that what I have to share will help and maybe inspire and give you you know, a little refreshing, as we all need sometimes. So I am the Associate Director of the Center for International Education here at Florida State College of Jacksonville in Jacksonville, Florida. Next slide. So really, in my 10 minutes that I have, I'm going to just give you a brief introduction of what we do, the program areas, my journey specifically working in a MENA region and incorporating the MENA region within our community colleges. Next slide. So here at our Center for International Education, or the CIE, we do 4 specific things, and these all have supported our expanding work in these regions. Our Global Scholars Distinction Program, which, if it can go back, I'm not sure what happened. Our Global Scholars Distinction Program, which we've actually partnered with UNC Chapel Hill Worldview for their Global Scholars Program. Our Study Abroad and Study USA, of course. Virtual exchanges, which have been a great vehicle for us to expand our students' opportunities. And we have many co-curricular learning opportunities as well. Next slide. So this is just a quick conversation about my journey. That is me on the left in the white shirt, 125 pounds heavier. So sometimes people see and they're like, I don't know who you're talking about, but that's me, short curly hair. And I was working in a kindergarten, working on my doctorate. And one of my previous professors said, hey, we're going to go to another country, and we're going to do a special education conference because I do have some background in special education work. And said, "You want to come?" And I was like, "Sure." Now, mind you, I'd never been anywhere other than California was the farthest I'd ever been. So I went to the meeting, and needless to say, they're like, "We're going to Yemen." And I was like, "Okay, I don't even know where Yemen is, but it sounds great." So I signed up, said yes, and it absolutely changed my life. I ended up going there and working with educators and families of special needs children in Sana'a, which is the capital of Yemen. And the very next summer, I went to Sana'a and Taiz, which is the second largest city in Yemen. And I was able to spend that time in that country before it closed. And it gave me a unique perspective. First place I'd ever traveled internationally. So it's kind of, I guess, a go big or go home moment. And the people and the spirit. And I learned in that moment that, I'm not a big fan of the news anymore. Different things like that, because I learned in that moment our prejudice, whether it's, learned or taught, or just kind of that implicit bias. I learned that I had some misgivings that were just from my surroundings here in Florida, in a very open home, but I had developed some misgivings. And I went and I learned that people that believed different, felt different, had different paths, that the behavior of a few didn't dictate the entire society. So all of these life-changing things, and I fell in love with the people. Next slide. Next slide. What it did is it put me on a path to that started my international education journey. I served as an international program director for 10 years. At a SEVP school, and we were the largest non-boarding international program in our region, and went over 30 countries, marketed, recruited, met tons of people, all different areas in Europe, Asia, and the Middle East. On the left, you see that's me and my roommates, all dressed up in our traditional clothing. Some of my friends that I've met along the way. And I put a picture there of me and two of my students, because I want to inspire you that when you travel yourself and when you expose students to travel, it can change their trajectory, just like it changed mine. And what I'm doing today is a direct result of me saying yes to a place I didn't even know. And when I found out, I still said yes. And those are two of my students, because I've taught college for over 10 years now as an adjunct. And one of the students, the one with the long curly hair, she went to Thailand and is still there. She's been teaching there for 6 years. And Trish, the other student, she taught in Korea for 5. And so those students, because what I would do is I would take what I would experience overseas and I would bring it back into my classroom. And those students both chose to teach overseas because of that influence of culture and conversation, and what it did for me changed for them. Next slide. Okay. So taking all of that foundational knowledge, I'm very blessed that my university, my college has respected my experience and given me a good deal of autonomy, even though we know there's red tape in every institution, right? But they've given me a great deal of autonomy to pursue and to take my connections and my background and develop an emerging center for international education. So how we strategically incorporate the MENA region. I did a lot of work in Jordan. And so I have a great friend there. I put the poster there of the work he does. He did a business seminar for us. So many of the things that we do, virtual exchanges, if you haven't heard of those before, those are a great way that we connect. We just signed a joint development agreement with Nelson Mandela University. So now we're actually expanding into Africa And those connections that we've gotten there are now giving us connections into Cameroon, which is a place that we'd like to go, and even into Morocco and Egypt. So it's kind of giving us a springboard, those virtual exchanges where we match up faculty and students and they do asynchronous activities, and it culminates in a synchronous live event. And it's pretty exciting. And if you want to know anything more about virtual exchanges, we have a robust virtual exchange program that came out of our ideas grant that we had earned several years ago. And so that's been a great benefit for that. Signature events, we have local and international speaker sessions, just like Stephen. He's worked in Amman, Jordan for over 15 years now. And so he did a virtual event for us. And we're even starting to get involved and through panels like this and other opportunities for regional symposiums to kind of connect, because connection makes all the difference to break into new areas. We have an international club, very strong international club at our college. And so with Ramadan, we had a whole celebration with Ramadan, and we do have special club events. And so we try to find, we have a good international F1 and J1 students, and they come and we try to incorporate their culture. And by doing that, we're able to address regions that may not normally get traction, may not normally even get a nod. And so we're able to really strategically include other countries that may have otherwise been dismissed. Sister city organizations, if you're not familiar with a sister city organization, I encourage you to look into them. I'm the president of Jacksonville Sister Cities Association here in Jacksonville, which has opened many a door for us to connect and collaborate with new universities and colleges for different activities and exchanges. So if you haven't heard about Sister Cities, I would encourage you to look within your city or your state and see what's available, because they have great connections. I'm almost out of time. So connecting with faculty and staff, we have several staff from MENA regions. They are a resource, using them as a resource, getting their input and connecting with their connections has really been a great benefit for us. The local community connection, every community has pockets of people from different areas, whether they're refugee groups or just a good inset of a certain people group within a community. I would encourage you to access your local community. I talked about globalizing courses, and globalizing courses is through UNC Worldview. So if you've not heard of that, look at UNC Worldview Global Scholars Distinction Program. And they have a really good, strong format for globalizing courses. And all of those things put together have helped us at FSCJ educate beyond the stigma, because we know that there can be stigma in the MENA regions. And so those are the things that we as a community college, we as a center have done to move the work forward in these specific regions. So that's it. I hope that was helpful.
Thank you so much. That was very helpful. Thank you for talking about your work and for your call for centering the voices and the expertise of local communities. That is something that we very much align with. And that's also a very good transition to Cinder's presentation about designing study abroad experiences for community college students, and your experience about that.
Okay, well, part of everything that I've been saying, and thank you for having me, everyone. It's nice to see you all here. I wanted to talk broadly about what both presenters have already talked about, Dr. Robinson and Lisa here, and just kind of give more insight into what's happening with community college and what some of the roadblocks are to designing some of these programs and how we kind of get past that. So just a little bit about Montgomery College. We are a college with 3 campuses with over 40,000 students. 17,000 are in the credit program, and then the others are in the non-credit programs. 21% of our students receive Pell Grants. Our students are from over 150 different countries. And you'll notice that there is this theme with this region in the DMV, that we have a very internationalized community college system and communities all in this area. So we are international, you know, just by default, but that doesn't mean that our colleges have been doing a good job internationalizing, and that is making sure people are communicating together and learning how to live in the world together and exist in the world together outside of the classes. So 150 different colleges, 66% of our students attend part-time. And I'm mentioning this as it relates to study abroad, so it will make sense in just a minute. And it will piggyback off of what Lisa was saying. But 23 is the average age of our student at Montgomery College. So 23 for credit programs, 29 for the non-credit programs. And we are a Hispanic serving institution and not the serving institution that's Asian American, Native American, Pacific Islander community. So we are majority minority. And so we think about what that means in terms of study abroad, particularly in two factors. That is the Pell Grant recipient, and that students are attending part-time. And what I didn't say, what isn't on this, but in general from the CCRA, the Community College Research Association from Columbia University, is that half of community college students work at full-time. So half are going, 66% are attending part-time, but they're also predominantly working, and that is different from what we're seeing at four-year schools. If you could go to the next slide. So we have to think about our stakeholders and how we try to convince our colleges, our organizations to invest in study abroad and invest in internationalization. Because as Lisa said, this is going to seem very redundant because we're here. We've been in this together for a long time. So we have to get the buy-in of our stakeholders. And here are our stakeholders. They're the institutions themselves. Do they see the value in internationalization and in study abroad? Or are they just trying to get people into the workforce? So at Montgomery College, we are trying to convince our administration that getting people ready for the workforce means preparing them for an internationalized society, an international world. How do we do that? How do we get people prepared to deal with cultures that are not their own? Not just deal, but accept and work with and enjoy this challenge of getting outside of ourselves. Another stakeholder, of course, are our students. We have to think about what students want, what students need, and what students value. So considering the stakeholders and how we can convince them that study abroad is for them. Even the Pell Grant recipient, even the single parent, even the person who's working, even the person who's taking care of family members. How do we convince them to see the value in study abroad, in international relations as a major in international studies? So it is our job then to convince them to see the value in learning about other cultures and immersing themselves in other cultures. And the hardest two, students can be easy. Again, as Dr. Robinson said, if we just talk to them about our experiences and show them what we have gone through, then that is one way that we can really elicit some type of affinity for going abroad, learning about different cultures. Administrators, though, that's a different beast altogether. Right? Because it is about the money. It is about the bottom line. It is about how do we get our students prepared for the workplace. And so convincing them and showing them that there is synchronicity with all of these things is a challenge. So this is important for us. Faculty and staff, again, not as entrenched as administrators, but we can be entrenched. So as Lisa was saying, when we think about the population who, parts of the population who don't have passports or who haven't been outside of the country, we have to do a better job of getting faculty and staff to go abroad too, and not just to the places that are comfortable and that we speak the same language, but there is something to be said about being a stranger in a strange land, right? Because it gets us outside of our comfort zone. And so if we can see, particularly in this area, what our students go through, because often they're strangers in a strange land. They come from different places, and to put ourselves in that shoes for just their shoes for just 2 or 3 weeks gives us the kind of empathy that we can take into the classroom. Surrounding community, again, we are in an area where our community is very diverse, but how do we build that into our curriculum? How do we say, I know that we have this thriving Ethiopian community in Montgomery County, and we have Little Ethiopia right there, which is part of the country where outside of Ethiopia, we have the largest Ethiopian population in the world. So how do we use the community and engage them in our activities? How do we convince people that, yeah, we need to actually go abroad to Ethiopia. We need to teach Amharic. We need to bring the community in. So all of this is important. But finally, we have businesses, because at Montgomery College, there is this connection and relationship between business partnerships. And so businesses want employees who can critically think and communicate. We used to call them soft skills. They don't call them that anymore. I think they call them power skills now. But power skills is about communicating across cultures. And so study abroad is a way that we can develop that. I wanted to just mention for a second, you can go to the next one. When we think about study abroad, we should also be thinking about overseas professional development as it relates to internationalizing our campuses. And so how do we get faculty if we can't get students initially? And what are some of the obstacles to all of this internationalization? Well, again, to repeat my esteemed colleague, Lisa, time is an obstacle, right? Time is an obstacle. Again, when you have faculty who are teaching 5 classes at a community college for 14 to 15 weeks, then how do we convince them to take on something else, right? How do we convince our students who are working, 66% are working part-time, that this is something value? So I'm mentioning these obstacles, I'm showing you these obstacles. I don't have resolutions for these obstacles, but I just want us to think about them as we try to engage in study abroad and professional development. So another obstacle is inclination and interest, and I want to pair that with fear, because I think, as Dr. Robinson said, there is that stigma of going abroad, particularly to the MENA regions. And to parts of Africa, which is where I do a lot of my work. So making people think about going beyond their fear and destigmatizing these regions. As she said, just watching the news would be enough, but that's the point, right? To get beyond the news and to experience these places on our own. So inclination and interest is one area, and then we have to get institutional buy-in from our boards, from our foundations, from the government. Lisa's now with the government. So getting that support, because there is the cost for our students. So there are all of these ways that we can start to address some of these issues that might begin with just instilling that interest. We can go to the last slide, please. That's okay. So I think it might be a globe, maybe? No, the one after the globe. But essentially, yes, there are ways that we can address these challenges before going head first into study abroad. But as Dr. Robinson said, we can think about COILs, or collaborative online international learning, thank you. And we have that at our college called Global Classrooms. So that is an inexpensive way to expose students to other cultures. And so making those connections with other cultures through having joint assignments, joint lessons, asynchronous communications, particularly if we're in an area that is lots of time zones away. We can think about globalizing our courses. From Montgomery College, we developed a course called Global Humanities 101 that came out of a National Endowment for the Humanities grant. And then we can really start thinking about study abroad and demystifying study abroad and applying them and investing in them through various other mechanisms. But again, for our students, we know that short term is better, although we may have some that are long term, but making them work for our communities' schedules and lives. So short term study abroad, summer study abroads for faculty, there would be professional development in between semesters because that's the only time we can go. We don't have the same type of release time that four-year colleges do. So making these kinds of opportunities available just to collaborate with people from institutions in other parts of the world. So those are ways that we can do that. But also there is, again, exposure to partnerships. That is a big key because together is better, right? So we can go, I just heard this today in another thing that I was in 2 hours ago. We can go fast alone or something better together. I don't know. But anyway, second of the three, first of three panels. But I think that it is important for us to design programs where our students can learn who they are, and so our faculty can learn who they are as well, because we are the conduits for them. And so our students may never go to a four-year college. And so the only experience they might have internationally is what they get with us. And so I think it's very important for us to provide them with opportunities through our own mechanisms. Thank you. I don't know how long that was. I'm sorry.
Thank you so much. That was very insightful. We appreciate everything you said about doing these things in partnership, thinking about addressing these challenges in partnerships, because we're not islands. And as we as an organization try to find ways to meaningfully and intentionally design for community college students, we want to be in this conversation with you. And I think that's the premise for this event. So thank you so much. And I really look forward to taking this conversation further. Lisa, you said earlier that we need to rely on the expertise of the alumni. We've heard you. We have Zaynab with us today, Zaynab Mirza, who's a stellar alumna from our CASE program, Community Action and Social Entrepreneurship. That's an Amideast program that is specifically tailored for community college students. And Zaynab has agreed to be with us today to talk about how it's contributed to shaping her career goals and her goals in her community.
So thank you so much for everyone here, and also for this opportunity to speak about this program that I was a part of last year. It really is an honor. But yeah, so I was selected to go on the CASE program through Amideast, and I did realize this through many of Ms. Lisa's emails, but also through our local community college, which is Northern Virginia Community College, gives out a nightly newsletter. So we could read the information on there, and I always read it because it has so many hidden opportunities that people don't realize. And I noticed that it had a chance to study abroad, and I typically overlook those opportunities because of financial constraints or having a job or having responsibilities at home. So I typically overlook them. But I noticed that this program was only for 10 days. So it didn't feel as though it was a long semester or like 3-month or a year-long study abroad. So it was almost like you could have a glimpse of what it was to study abroad. So that caught my eye. And what also caught my eye is you weren't only just there to study, but you could have hands-on experience. So CASE stands for Community Action Social Entrepreneurship. So in Tunisia, we did a lot of activities that were very diverse, and it wasn't just studying the entire time, and it wasn't just exploring the entire time, but it was like a mixture of everything together. So I remember in Tunisia, every single day we would have a panel discussion in the morning where a certain panelist regarding a certain topic would speak about it. For example, we would talk about migration, LGBTQ, sustainability, race, indigenous people, but through the perspective of people who were researchers in those areas, and also through a North African lens, which a lot of people wouldn't have gotten if they were just studying in the US per se, or just reading an article online. It doesn't have the same feel, excuse me. But those discussions that we had were so insightful, and I wouldn't trade it for the entire world. I think I remember listening to a discussion on race. And actually, I believe I was talking to the first woman who gave an anti-racist policy in the MENA region, which was such a big deal. And especially learning about even colonization and hearing from the lens of people who were activists, hearing about the Tunisian Revolution in 2011, or hearing about their other constitutions. Something I learned that I don't think I would have is that the Tunisian constitution, because of colonization, was originally written in French, but due to, since most people in the region speak Tunisian Arabic, it was translated to Arabic, but there were discrepancies once it was translated. So their constitution has discrepancies in it. And that's just a factor of colonization. So it's a sad fact, but it's also like, I wouldn't really have known that had I just read an article online, maybe in my room in my house. It really helps to hear it from an activist perspective to learn about this stuff. And not only did we listen to panels and have discussions, but we also were able to volunteer. So I remember we would bake goods for unemployed women in the city of Tunis. We would also clean up beaches. And in Tunisia, they have a recycling program that isn't just recycling and trash, but has 7 different types of recycling, and different types of trucks come all the time to make it more sustainable. So again, I wouldn't have known that because it feels like such a local thing to understand. And these experiences were so valuable to me, especially as, you know, an 18-year-old not knowing what's going on. And also in my first year of community college, I was really lost. And I majored in international relations because I knew that I liked other cultures and I liked learning about different countries. But I think it's a good segue to talk about community college students studying abroad, because they don't really get this opportunity. A lot of community colleges, like a lot of the panelists are saying, are overlooked, and people, they don't normally get the opportunities that other four-year or public institutions get. Which is a shame, because I know so many community college students who have the potential and who have so much, you know, vigor, and they have so much intelligence, and it feels almost as if it's wasted if they aren't getting these opportunities, because I know that they have so much potential. And that's why I'm incredibly grateful that Amideast was able to create this program and showcase it to and target it to community college students, because as Lisa and Cinder were saying, that, you know, we do have constraints that we can't always take up everything and just drop everything and just study abroad. I know people in my cohort, some of them have never left the country before, which is the truth for a lot of community college students. And I was actually shocked to learn that 2/3 of the US population doesn't have passports. I was really shocked to learn that. So, and I think that is a problem, because in my opinion, everyone deserves to or should have a global perspective, and that can only really be gained by studying abroad or going abroad and leaving the country. So I think that it's always important to have a global perspective and to foster inclusivity, especially in community college spaces, which is why I just adored this program. And that also is a good segue to just how it's affected my journey. Like I said, I was a first-year community college student, and being in community college, especially for the first year, I don't know if this is similar to other students, but it really was really difficult. People just go to class and then they leave immediately after. There's really not a much social atmosphere on campus. It can feel really isolating and lonely a lot of times, and there aren't as many opportunities as you would see maybe on other campuses, maybe like UVA or William Mary. Other colleges really feed off of these opportunities, but it seems as though maybe colleges that are community colleges are overlooked and overshadowed. So I really appreciate that this opportunity was, shown in our community college, and it really inspired me and cemented in me a passion and interest in global affairs. And it really showed me, oh, even though this excursion was only for 10 days, which seems really short, it was a good glimpse to like maybe take a dip into studying abroad and see if I really liked it. You don't want to do an entire 6 months and be like, oh, actually I don't like this. It's always good to have a glimpse and then be like, oh, like maybe I do like this, maybe I'll do it again. Which is what I did. So I was actually selected for the Critical Language Scholarship in India this summer, and I truly believe that Amideast kind of gave me that opportunity because I do now have experience abroad in Tunisia. And I think that since I have a more global perspective now and I have intercultural communication skills, that it will help me in studying abroad. And I mean this not in like a bragging way, but in a way to show that like community college students have the potential and can do whatever they want if they put their mind to it. And if they have these opportunities to them, they have more than enough power to do so. And I really think that even if you feel like you don't have much experience, which I didn't have any internship experience or fellowship experience regarding global affairs. I just put myself out there and I used what I know, and here I am. So I think,
Awesome.
I mean, not to say like that, but
No, you're awesome. You're awesome.
Say it like that.
Yes, you're awesome.
Say it like that.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. But yeah, I just wanted to say that if you are a community college student or a non-traditional student, you really can do anything you put your mind to. I want you to know that I was in the same like shoes as you were. I wasn't just like given these and I was like, oh, I'm good. Like I had to work for it and I had to search for these opportunities. But I really do think that community college students should have more of a say in and also a space in the study abroad programs and atmosphere. And yeah, that really inspired me to maybe pursue a career maybe in the nonprofit sector, since I did so much volunteer work, and also maybe potentially be a diplomat or like work in the federal government, but we'll see, fingers crossed. But for now, I'm just glad that I got that opportunity from Amideast to study abroad in Tunisia in the MENA region and really broaden my global understanding of different regions and also their perspective. And I wouldn't trade that for the entire world. So thank you. Yeah.
Thank you so much for this moving testament. I remember discussing with you during the pre-departure orientation at CASE, and you were one of our most engaging students, and I can see that now in person. I'm very grateful for that. I look forward to seeing the great things that you're going to achieve.
Oh, thank you.
With that, we're going to open the floor for questions. We're going to alternate questions in person and virtually. So if you have any questions.
I guess I can think of a question. Hi, my name is Delaney Leslie, and I work with the National Council on U.S. Arab Relations in their student programs area. And one of our biggest programs in our council is the Model Arab League program, where it's basically like Model UN, but we do it with the 22 Arab nations. And one of the biggest pushes that we're trying to do is get this instilled and get more community colleges involved with this, because of exactly like you said, the lack of like options and the lack of access as well. So we can help provide people. When talking to administration, teachers, and students, what would be, I guess, the tips and tricks to try to get them, like, say, especially those in the South, saying like, oh, like Model Arab League, we don't want to be a part of that. So what would you say would be a really great thing to be like, spend the money to send your students to regionals to get this experience, to be involved?
So I think the issue is that there is no money. So I think that's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
So what can be done? Like, how can it be done? Because at least at Nova, we did not have a pool of money to send students, right? So it was all sorts of tips and tricks that we had to find to get, you know, foundation or student services or, you know, very tiny student fees. We don't really charge student fees for study abroad. So it's really what can be done. Are there grants available? Are there scholarships available? And I think for community colleges, that's the big thing. Can we apply for a grant to at least send a small group, to send a faculty member so that that faculty member can then help with virtual exchanges? But we don't have the funding to send students abroad. I think that's the biggest barrier to entry. So if there could be a virtual opportunity, if there's funding available, we're all for it. But even if there is funding available, the staffing is so limited that you really have to chew it up for us and say, this is what our ask is of you. Or do you have time to dedicate to maybe fleshing this out a little bit? Yeah, that's just.
And I would just add to that, connecting with student engagement and student services and student governments. And so interestingly enough, on our campus at Montgomery College, student engagement, student services, they have a little bit more wiggle room to play with funding. And so talking to the director on college campuses, particularly on community college campuses and MSIs, that might be a way to get in the door. And so also, I would say history and political science professors, but student services, student engagement would be a place to start. They may be able to, because we do have students in Model UN. So I think that particularly in our area, they would be amenable to that. Now I'm from South Carolina, maybe not so much.
Me too.
Me, we're talking. But I think that it is about having people, how you convince them this, I don't know. But the world is getting smaller and students have to be prepared for a global economy and a global world. And so if they don't have that intercultural communication or understanding, it's just going to make life more difficult.
Yeah.
So conveying that, I think, is important in a way for the Southerners that, you know, you don't embarrass them, but, you know, bless their hearts. Are we being recorded? I'm sorry.
Dr.
Not you, Dr. Robinson.
Yeah, I would say as a Southerner, I understand. I'm not mad at it. Born and bred, you know, but I will say this, I cannot stress enough the importance of alumni. And making those local business connections. But I found we have a foundation at FSCJ that's helped support some of the travel for students. We've also, when you mentioned about 2/3 of the of people in the US not having passports, there are passport grant programs as well. And so we're utilizing those passport grant programs now to do passport pop-ups and help our students get passports, because sometimes that's an initial barrier when there was a conversation earlier about obstacles. The more obstacles, the more barriers we can take out of the equation, the better. And our community college was able to actually participate. We're the first community college to participate in Diplomacy Lab. And so we're doing Diplomacy Lab right now. And that is opening doors for things like the Model Arab Root program that you're talking about. I think the more exposure you give your faculty and the more exposure you give your students, the more interested they get. And interesting your foundation, interesting your faculty and your local businesses. That's really where you're going to get some of that support that you're not normally going to get through the budget.
I think there's a question on. Okay.
There was a question in the chat. Someone there's 14 chats. Virtual
Oh, I
exchange
know.
programs in the North African region, despite Egypt's Morocco.
So yeah. There's many virtual exchanges available in probably every country of the world. It just depends on with whom you partner or which school you go through. There might even be opportunities available that are not linked to a higher education institution. I would say start with Google if you're not affiliated with a higher education institution, and if you are, then speak with your international education office, if there is one.
Well, and COIL themselves will help partner you, because that's a good clearinghouse as well. And I will say that we developed 2 of our partnerships through our Sister Cities program here in Jacksonville. So there again, that community connection makes a difference.
I have more than one question, if that's okay. I don't know how we're doing for time. Dr. Robinson, was it you who was mentioning Sister Cities International? Someone
Yeah.
mentioned these, which is a great, wonderful organization. But what I don't know, and I wonder if you can tell us, in those kind of city to city relationships in the US and somewhere in the world, are there any institutions that are like community colleges or that are community colleges or, in other countries? And does that sister cities relationship sometimes bring a US community college into contact with a community college in another country, whereby some kind of exchange could take place, or anything at all that would help with internationalization of the US community college?
Yeah, that's how we work now with La Joliverie in Nantes, France, and Nelson Mandela University in Nelson Mandela Bay, South Africa, as a direct result of our connection with Sister Cities in Jacksonville. And so getting involved in that organization, and letting them know kind of that we talk to them about, our building our study abroad program and us built and our robust virtual exchange program. And by presenting that to Sister Cities, those different city partnerships, twin cities, some of those cities said, hey, I think we're interested in doing something. I have a connection, I have a resource. And so for us, that's been a really good open door.
Great, excellent. My other question was, it may have been you again, I don't remember. It was talking about the importance of, I guess, speaking to decision makers and administration, to help them understand the synergy or the synchronicity, I think was the word, between international education and future employment, the skills that you learn and how that can help you in your future career. And I'm wondering, do those of you from community colleges or familiar with community colleges, are there career fairs at community colleges whereby employers that are invited to talk about future prospects, career opportunities to community college students, those that are invited from the employer community are actually prepared to mention at the career fair the importance of certain international skills or experiences to finding a job at their company, organization, institution, etc. Does that happen? I mean, if Amideast was invited to a community college career fair, for example, certainly students would be talking to us. We'd be talking to them about the importance of some kind of international experience in the Middle East and North Africa region. It's something we look for when we're hiring entry-level people for the Fulbright program or other programs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll let one of my colleagues answer that. And
I think you talked about that.
Yeah, I mentioned the synchronicity with our business community and having them have buy-in. And that is, we do have career fairs, but none that are focused on like international business. And you've given me an idea to take that. So certainly that could be it, because again, where we are the capital of the world, essentially. And so to have that kind of event or those kinds of events would certainly help promote to the college the importance of internationalization, and to have businesses, organizations in our community co-sign that is a way to get the administration to again see the value. One of the things that we are seeing at the community college level now, at least Montgomery College in Maryland, is that we have this, we have openings. We have lots and lots and lots of job openings. And so there is this, this rush, it feels like a rush to get students into the workforce, right? And to get them into the workforce and really kind of put humanities and into the backseat, right? And so, but these skills that we learn from the humanities and in these courses really are the ones that create great workers. And a part of that is international, intercultural communications. And so we do need to make sure that our administration know that those two go together. They can't be divorced. You know, you can prepare a worker, but you also need to prepare thinkers. And so what we're seeing is a climate that colleges want to prepare workers, but not thinkers who work, but workers who work.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so we have to really change that mindset. We need a paradigm shift. And so I think, and that's our goal. That's going to be one of the challenges that we have to overcome.
It's a long-term,
Yes.
generational almost, but we have to start.
We have to start. We have to start. And I think with students, like Zaynab here, this is the way that we show them, like we can do more than just be workers and automatons, right? You know, cogs in the machine. We have to be thinkers, or the trajectory of our country. I'm preaching to the choir, I know. It is not going to be pretty.
Yeah.
I don't know if that answered that question, but we're going to work on it. We're going to work on international business fairs.
Okay, we have a question in the chat from Sean Bunning. For the panel, do you have suggestions on how best a four-year university can partner with local community colleges, developing collaborative projects that leverage the unique institutional strengths and missions we have to build multilateral partnership projects internationally, and specifically in the MENA? And what can we do together to best serve our students and local community stakeholders? I know that's a long question.
I'll just add, so I'll just give an example with Nova. So Nova has a very close partnership with George Mason University. It's called the Advanced Program. It's one of the very few nationwide. I really hope that it becomes a bigger thing. I think there's also one in Iowa. There's also one in Arizona with Arizona State University. But Nova's partnership with GMU is essentially a student gets a Nova ID and a GMU ID. I mean, you are essentially a student of both institutions, so that it's a seamless transition into a four-year degree. George Mason also allows non-GMU students to participate in their study abroad programs. So I think that's a huge benefit, because oftentimes, you know, students at community colleges just don't have that wealth of programs available. You know, at Nova, we had 3. George Mason, I think, has like 300, right? Because they have leveraged partnerships with CIE and other outside institutions, and they have vetted those programs. Community colleges don't have the resources, right? So we are very grassroots. We develop our programs ourselves. We don't have the finances to develop third-party programs. GMU and universities do. So you're kind of getting you know, the multiple benefit from attending a community college, paying the community college tuition, but being able to access a study abroad program where your you know, your scholarship can still fund that program, or if you have the resources, you can just attend the program as well. So I would say that those kinds of partnerships are vital, because again, you're getting the benefit of the financial and the connection or the access to a community college, but still getting access to a study abroad program at a university. And I'm not saying you have to have an advanced type program. I would say connecting with a university that is, I hate the word feeder school, but if you are going to a community college that sends a lot of its students to a university, you have a much better chance of probably accessing their study abroad. So I would definitely connect with a university that's close by.
Yeah, I would agree.
Do we have any other questions?
We have one more question in the chat. From all of your experiences with international students, did the international students from the MENA region experience delays or denials getting F1 visas to community colleges?
Well, I am not in the international students office, so I don't know. But I do know that we have a very robust population of students from the MENA region. And so their process of getting here, I'm just not sure. I think you would probably know better than me.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Also, sorry. I did this for more than 10 years, working with bringing F1 students in through SEVP. And so I will tell you that even within the region, different countries themselves have challenges that are unique. So some of the good thing is partnering with really strong agencies who have high success rates. I know we do have some students who come in, they try to come in independently. I know that for some countries, having better proof of where the student will live is important versus another country who maybe have a stronger need for the connection to community. They want to make sure they're coming home. And they have specific things that help with that. So I would say learning those countries, learning their application rates versus their denial rates, and then doing some of the research to find out why, working with if you have a SEVP representative, if you're in an F1 school, they will help you with some, they can give you some insight usually. So I would say reach out to your SEVP rep, even sometimes the Homeland Security officer that works in your area. They can also give you some input as well, and then working with those agencies closely.
Thank you so much, Dr. Robinson. With that, we're perfectly on time. If we have another question, then we can take it. But...
Hi, I'm Zaynab. My question is about, has any of you who are working at the university collaborated with the disability student services to engage or provide support to international students, and how do they feel about that? And as the worker, what's the cultural sensitivity about disability and disability? Thank you.
Yeah, that's a really good question. So there's two different things, right? So if we've got students coming from abroad here, exchange students, it's much easier, right? Because the US is very much focused on accessibility, ramps and just having access for students with visible and invisible disabilities. Sending students abroad is a little bit more challenging. For example, we had a student who went to Prague who was in a wheelchair, and we did everything in our power to make sure that she had a seamless experience. But you're going to Old Town Prague, you're not going to be able to get to some of the things that don't have those ramps, that don't have elevators, and that we cannot change a foreign city that does not have the same structure that the United States does. The United States is far above and far ahead in terms of accessibility. So for exchange programs, at least the ones that we were running at Nova, that was actually a focus point, right? We are looking for you, right? So we remember we had a cohort of students who were visually impaired. We've had students who are hard of hearing. We've had students in wheelchairs and in prosthetics, and every type of person is welcome to apply to those kinds of programs because we can accommodate that. And community colleges are very good with accessibility issues, right? There's typically an office, so you can go and you can get extra testing, or you can get whatever resource you need available. Again, a little bit different than that when you're sending a student abroad. So that has to be a conversation on an individual level with the student to say, this is what will be available. Are you comfortable with this? And if not, let's see if we can go a different direction and find a different program for you that will work best for your needs. So I hope that answers the question.
I agree.
Yes. So I've been involved with running, administering, leading about 7 years worth of State Department grants type programs like Access. And then when Access was canceled in the Gulf region, we were locally funded by Ambassador Silverman and Ambassador Romanowski to carry on with the work. So that's 7 years focused on doing that work with stateless kids in Kuwait. I'm overwhelmed at this moment with culture gap. I mean, I'm really struggling with it in my, it almost brings me to tears right now because I hear you and I see the problem here and I'm up over my eyebrows with the problem over there right now. So not to bring anybody down, but have you got students over there right now from US over there? Are you planning for students to go from US over there right now or in the near future? It's not going to be easy. It's going to be really, really a lot of animosity right now. So what are your thoughts on this? And vice versa, bringing people here.
Sure. I guess I'll take one way, and then I have a room full of colleagues who can take the question about the other way. We have a lot of students on the ground right now on Amideast education abroad programs, and far fewer than there used to be. You know, there was prior to COVID, there had been a pretty serious decline in people being interested in studying language, right? I mean, the region gets pigeonholed, right? For being, you know, we can only study Arabic there, and we can only study international relations, and we can only study these things in a very, it's very colonialist, really, right? And then COVID happened, and they're not coming back. They're not coming back in nearly the numbers that they were, even though, you know, there's not enough housing, for instance, in London to house all the students who want to go to London. And there's not enough housing anywhere in Italy or Spain for all the students who want to go there. But we have students on the ground. We have high school students. We have university students. I will say what we have seen since COVID, even in the smaller numbers of students, is a greater diversity, a much better representation of what the United States actually looks like. And I think that helps a lot. Our students who have been there, you know, over the past several months, you know, have not, you know, it's been a very humbling opportunity for them, which for us is fine because we're really focused on intercultural humility. Like we don't, you know, they're you know, and I say this in all sincerity, you know, all of our other, you know, colleagues in study abroad organizations are really focused on like the student experience and what will your story be and that sort of thing. And we don't care what your story is. Like you know, we care, you know, you don't, putting students first does not mean that you also don't put the host community first. And that's our philosophical approach to everything that we do. And I think it really helps. And our students, I think, have had an excellent experience, you know, despite all of the, you know, I mean, I think I don't think I'm speaking out of turn when I say like, we have some tears in this office. A lot often, you know, over the past, you know, recently. But I do think I don't know, I don't, sometimes I despair, but there's the other thing that balances that out. And I think we have great students, clearly, and we create very intentional and purposeful opportunities.
But where are they? In the Middle East.
So until December, we had students in Jordan. We have students in Morocco. We have students in Tunisia. We will have students in all 3 countries this summer, and we will have some students over the next, you know, throughout the rest of 2024 and early 2025, also going to the Gulf.
Really?
We also have students incoming. through our different programs, and my colleagues here can testify to that. When you asked about and talked about the realities in the region, and knowing the issues and the challenges, we know them too. We have the offices, our country offices in the region, and our colleagues from these communities who inform our work and lead with empathy and connection to these communities. Here at our headquarters, we have the same mentality as Elena was talking about, this kind of humility and dealing with these populations and communities that we engage with and that we serve. And it's really about serving, and it's really about understanding. And I say that being myself, Tunisian, and someone from the region, someone who helps, inform these programs that we do about the region. So all of our work is driven not by some kind of mentality that is we're doing something upside, something from the top level, but we're really grassroots, as you said, and we're really there. We're really present in the region. We're driven by these communities, and we're there to serve them. I don't know if it answered, but
I can mention from my experience, just I guess because 15 years of it was serving as our country director in Palestine, and what's going on right now, and how many Palestinian students we bring here to study, including from Gaza. Humility. I mean, I'm inspired, and really in many ways look up to and admire the vast majority of Palestinian students that we bring over here. They never cease to amaze, despite their circumstances and everything that they're up against and trying to deal with, and the loss that they've been experiencing. And yet they rise above and put us all to shame, really. So I totally get what you're talking about there, and I want you to know that we have many stateless students here, especially Palestinians, that we are doing everything we can to support, and not just the basics of the program administration that they have to be enrolled in. Our staff are regularly, on the phone, and sometimes if they're in the DC area, they can come over here. Just supportive conversations and a lot of empathy and a lot of what can we do and how can we help.
I think that the Amideast program in Palestine and a few of the other, like Levant, is significantly different than the Amideast program in the Gulf.
Yeah, sure. You're right. If your experience, you're speaking from experience with the Gulf, absolutely. Yes.
Yes, and I would also add that utilize your students, because a lot of the stigmas and the trepidations, of course, we know we can't quit. We have to keep offering. We have to keep finding new programs. We can't let the narrative control or, hold us back. We just have to keep forging forward, because one student traveling is still better than none. But I would say our international club and some of the different events we've done, so students can interact and learn from each other, has made a big impact on how our students want to study abroad, because then it humanizes and it kind of breaks through some of that rhetoric, so that the students feel more comfortable and they feel more willing and they want to learn, and they're more considerate of traveling.
Dr. Robinson, do you want to say something?
I just wanted to also reiterate what Dr. Robinson is saying is, again, I think we can't, as a faculty member, we cannot dismiss or belittle the impact that faculty have on student choices, student decisions about studying abroad, about learning abroad, about learning about other cultures. And I think if we want to internalize that in our students, we have to get faculty more involved in programs too. So I think we can definitely reach out to students, but don't forget about professional development for faculty too, and administrators. But faculty can be the bridge to administrators, but we're in the middle. We can talk to administrators, but we are the first line to the students. And so that is the way that you engage students in caring about the world, but faculty have to know about the world too. And so we have to know about the region too. So how do we get that information if we aren't a Middle Eastern or a MENA specialist? We have to get it from somewhere. So I would just like to advocate for all the people at Amideast, do something for faculty.
We have our first program. We're gonna be rolling out a second one, although I'm gonna keep that one under wraps. But we have basically a whole series now called Learning for Practitioners, and we rolled out the first iteration of this program. Unfortunately, we didn't get enough people to enroll, but it's for Jordan, and it's based on anybody can come. But the focus is really for vocational and technical educators and administrators, anybody, anybody who wants to come. But our colleagues in Jordan have very purposefully and intentionally over the past several years gone out and made a number of agreements with wonderful institutions across the sort of, the diverse spectrum of vocational and technical education. So, everything from like 3D carpentry to automotive electronics to hospitality and culinary and film and all of these sorts of things. So, yeah, we will talk. Yes.
So with that, thank you all so much. I am going to borrow Dr. Robinson's word, keep forging forward. I guess that's the takeout from today. Thank you all for making the time, for sharing your knowledge and thoughts. And thank you all for being here with us today.
Thank you.